All right. So thank you so much, Farhat, for being here. I'm just going to do one quick message and just let everyone know that this is the second Y Talk that we're doing after taking a bit of a break. The first one was a panel for International Women's Day. So here we are. I'm like super excited about this talk because it's about Gen AI and how, we sort of exist and work and live in this new era of Gen AI. So that's why we called this one Accelerate, Enable, Transform. There's another reason why we called it that, and we will get to that during our talk. But for today, I just want to introduce Farhat Siddiqui. She is someone who has been a Gen AI adoption leader for a long time, and she's also an AI advocate as well as a community builder. So thank you so much, Farhat, for being here. Yeah, if you want to just quickly say hello and anything else that you want to add, just like as part of your introduction, feel free.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Irene, for having me. I'm so glad you reached out, and I'm so excited to have this conversation and share about where I think Gen AI is right now and where I think it's going. And really, it's quite it's a conversation that can go in so many different paths, and it's just a very exciting time. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know before we started this recording, we were just talking about how like there's literally not one single person that I'm not having this conversation
Hmm.
with. So I'm glad to be having it with you because now it's like we can really go in depth into it. I guess like as a starting question, you've helped bring AI into organizations that are just starting out. So, I want to talk about the personal use stuff for sure, but let's start with like kind of how you get an organization ready for that kind of transformation beyond just like, okay, we're getting ChatGPT licenses or whatever it is. Like, yeah, let's talk a little bit about how an organization can get ready for it.
Right. I mean, personal use and enterprise use, it's completely two different worlds. In the personal use, you don't really care about, I mean, we are used to giving our data away for free. All of us do it. But when it comes to an enterprise, you can't really do that. So when an organization wants to start leveraging Gen AI, first thing, I mean, depending on the size, but if they are like a decent enough size, I tell them you need to get an enterprise license, and most of the providers now have an enterprise license, and it's a different offering than their consumer. It checks off all the boxes that the legal risk compliance folks worry about when they think about data integrity, data security. Is my data safe? Are they going to train the model on top of it? So definitely a company that's thinking about getting this should look into an enterprise license from the provider of their choice. Microsoft, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Google. So that's the thing. But that's just like the first thing. What it really needs is a desire from really, I would say, the C-suite
Mm.
to make this happen. They need to, so they come to it for many reasons, right? They may come to it because everybody else is doing it and they don't know where to get started. Or they may actually love it in their personal use, but now they want to get it done for their company. Sometimes and many times it begins in the IT area. And it's started by some engineer who looks at it and they look at and explore it. So there are many pathways where it starts out. But whether an enterprise is ready really depends on buy-in from the top and a culture in the company of curiosity.
Mhm.
So, because it's really hard. This change is so impactful that if both of those things are not true, it's probably not going to succeed in your first iteration. Maybe second, third, fourth, fifth, right? But your first iteration, it might fail, and then you may pull back and say, "Oh, this is not working for us," and you may give up. And I know that it's happened to some companies that
Mhm.
I've spoken with my peers as well, that has happened already, where they have pulled back and said, This did not work because that initial foundation was not in place.
Right.
Either the top level sponsorship was in there, or the culture of curiosity and being okay with failures was in there, or the support that is needed to actually do the governance portion wasn't there.
Hmm. Yeah,
So you need to have all of those.
and it seems like okay, it's one thing to get the licenses, right? It's one thing to coach everybody. It's one thing to have the buy-in. But then on the other end, it's like, okay, you're gonna apply this somehow. So is
Yes.
your data ready? You know, do you ha how much pre-prep, I guess, does there have to be? You know, if everyone's using it for a knowledge base, AI agents, chatbots, like those seem to be the really common, use cases,
Yeah.
but there still has to be pre-prep that they have to do, right?
Yes and no. So the prep that I would say is in putting together some basic guardrails. And the guardrails should be what you can and cannot do with it. Definitely some foundational training. So you can say things like, you may not use these types of data, or only this group may not use it. So you may put guardrails saying that customer facing groups cannot use it, right?
Mhm.
Or you may say that you can only put data that is classified as internal. So you have to marry to your data classification as well. I don't necessarily think that we need to invest so much in data prep, but that means that you have already put a load on your technical team, which usually are very stretched.
Mhm.
So my recommendation is that you start at a grassroots level, but definitely before that you put your guardrails in place. Not so much data prep, but guardrails, what you cannot do, and start conservative. You
Mhm.
can only use public data. You can only use internal level data. You cannot use confidential data. You cannot use restricted data. You may only use these type, and you only these groups which are not customer facing will get it,
Mhm.
right? So you can put some guardrails in place, which and then you learn how your organization reacts, where things can. The point is to limit the blast radius. If things do go wrong, I would strongly recommend that you do not start with an external facing chatbot. Bad idea. Don't do that.
Stakes are high.
Yeah, you don't want to have that $1 car.
Right. Well, and then also it seems like uh everyone wants to do AI, right? But a lot of, whether that's leadership or even entire companies that don't know, what are the workflows that they want to improve or what are the outcomes that they're actually looking for, so
Mhm.
then, how do you coach people in terms of like, what does doing AI mean?
Right, right. And that's where I've been experimented quite a bit with different patterns. And what I've arrived at right now is really having people focus on personal productivity before trying to do workflow enhancements. Because that's hard. That requires collaboration. Your span of control is over your own work is much higher than your span of control over a workflow that encompasses many people, right? So when you think of workflow, you might think of like your own workflow. And that's where the framework comes in, right? Accelerate, enable, transform. And I use that lens quite a bit. Uh, so I recommend that people use these AI assistants and technology for first personal productivity to speed up what they already know how to do. You and I can write emails. We can write documents. Some of us can do data analysis, some of us cannot do data analysis. Some of us can write code, some of us cannot write code. So whatever it is that you already know how to do it, use the AI assistant to do it faster. That's what I call the accelerate. And that to me is the entry point.
Mhm. And
So take whatever you can, do it faster. You shave off 5 minutes, maybe you shave off an hour. So maybe soon you'll be shaving off 20 hours,
Mhm.
right? Just do that.
And that's where the situation gets a little awkward, right? Because first of all, you have people who are saying, well, I'm not going to use it because I feel bad, because I feel like I'm cheating, right? And then you have plenty of people who will use it because they don't mind cheating, right? But then
Yeah,
again, the perception is still the same. You have the two sides of the coin, which is, oh, I'm cheating with this. But then it's like if they're not cheating, right? If it's not cheating, then it's a productivity enhancer that we should shamelessly make use
there
of,
should be no
right?
shame associated with it. Now, I would put it in the sense of, so is it almost like when the car was invented? Would you be ashamed of using the car?
Right.
Or you say, I really. oh my goodness, I really need to use my horse and buggy. I don't want to use the car. I'm ashamed of it. I don't think it went that way. It was like, oh my God, a car. That guy must be rich, right? So I
Right.
think this is almost like in that, see it from that perspective.
Hmm.
It's not cheating. It is leveling up. It is using Excel. So it's in the I think we should separate sort of the school
Hmm.
and the noise around the school about learning and things like that from work. At work, companies are throwing tools at people to get them to do work faster. So anything that gets them to do work faster, I think most companies will appreciate that. So it's not really cheating in from that perspective. So leaving aside education, that's a entirely different conversation, and there's a lot of things going on that we're talking about in that area as well. In work, if you get your work done in 1 hour, I don't think any manager is going to complain about it,
Right.
right?
But then again, there were plenty of horses that were out of a job.
That is the out of the job is definitely a reality, and we have a new pope, and I read that
Yeah.
he used his name Leo, because the last Pope Leo was at the time of the Industrial Revolution.
Mm.
And he's saying that we are living at a time that is at the same level of transformation as Industrial Revolution. That's why he picked that name.
I
Is
didn't
that's
know
what I
that was
read.
why. That's so cool.
And that is the sentiment that I would say that yes, it's going to be disruptive. It is actually going to be very disruptive, and we're already seeing that. We talked earlier about the graduates and
Right.
how entry level positions are like not necessarily there, and it is definitely going to be disruptive. It's going to be painful, but it's unstoppable
Hmm.
also.
And that's the thing, right? Because, okay, there's what you get paid for a certain set of skills, which varies, but then there's the constant, which is people are going to stay in community with each other and build things. So,
Mhm.
it's not like the AIs are all going to band together and make their own companies, right?
Not
Like
yet.
people,
Not
not
yet.
yet. People are driving this activity, right? So,
Yes.
whether you get hired for a job or not, and that's where we get into the whole like what makes us uniquely human thing part of this.
Mhm.
So like it's hard to tell people like, oh no, like don't bother because in the future, like you won't need to because that's not true. Like in the future, we're still going to create things. We're still
We
going
are
to be
still going to
part of
create
things.
things. Yeah.
So,
I think of AI like it doesn't replace you. AI amplifies you.
hmm
And that's the next phase of my framework where accelerate is you just take the thing that you can already do and do it faster with an AI assistant.
hmm
Enable is the next phase where now you can do things that you cannot. Now, you've seen my LinkedIn post. I have been posting artwork. Can I draw? No, I cannot. But now I'm an artist, I'm an AI artist. So, and not to like my work with AI art is say you would say it's a 3-star work maybe,
Yeah,
right? A designer, an artist who has the training can use AI to make a 7 out of 5-star work. Right?
absolutely.
That's
Yep.
how I see it, that now it's enabling people to do things that they were not able to do. So for me, it lets me make art, right?
hmm
Somebody lets them do code. I have no people who had to wait for weeks to get a data engineer, a data scientist to look at their problem, right? And now they can just do it themselves. So
hmm
what shifting left and what that is doing, I'm seeing is that it is in software you have this classic that comic where you say what the user wanted, and you see the one with the tire and the swing kind of thing. What the user wanted and what the BA wrote and what the programmer did and what the product industry like it just the game of telephone
Yep.
because now it's shifting left. We are getting solutions which are more closely solving the real problems because it's being built closer to the people with the real problems,
hmm hmm
not out of translation. So this enablement, so that's the next step, accelerate and enable.
hmm
And both of those are still in the realm of personal productivity.
And I love that you landed there because it sort of gets to our next question of like to you, like what separates someone who like we would consider an AI power user from someone, that's AI curious, let's say.
Right. And I had this poll up, if you know earlier that I showed you.
Mhm.
A AI power user is someone who is in the state of reflexive AI use. And reflexive AI was a term that I think it was Toby from Shopify who first put that in his memo. Reflexive AI is an idea that you reach for AI for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like you're reaching for looking in the rear view mirror when you're driving, your side mirrors. You just have them, you use them. It's like when your foot is on the brake and the accelerator, you're not thinking about it. You just do it. So something lands in your box, you immediately do that. I see the everywhere. So an AI power user is practicing reflexive AI.
Mm-hmm.
They use AI in almost everything that takes, because if even if it takes 5 minutes, if with AI they can do it in 1 minute, they will go do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the quality of their work improves. That's an AI power user in their personal productivity cycles. AI curious, I mean, it's a lot of people, right? And they're like, I don't know, this is a, I feel, and I had a conversation earlier about with some folks who were in the very beginning of their journey, and they were like afraid of getting started. I'm like, just go start talking to it, use your voice and talk to it.
It's like
It's
designed that way too. Like it's
it's
designed for you
designed
to
that way.
just
It talks to you. The barrier for entry is low. The forget about all that prompt engineering stuff you heard.
exactly.
That's so last year. That's so 2024 now. You're past it.
Uh, and that was like, I mean, that was like a really funny rise and fall really quickly. Because for a long time, I was like, prompt engineering, like, I haven't even heard of that being a job. Like, how
Hmm.
are people so experienced at prompt engineering when I've never even spoken to one? Um,
Right.
but I mean, also, like, when it was like the older language models, like, I remember using BERT and being like, okay, wait, how do I, just like having to figure out like what I wanted to get out of it, but now they're so much more accessible.
They
Um,
are.
so yeah, I mean, so okay, let's talk a little bit about how like when a team is ready, I mean, because this framework you have, accelerate, enable, transform, this is the framework you work in when you're consulting with clients. So yeah, kind of how do you know when they're ready to move from one level to another, and how do you know when they're ready to get started?
I think getting to a place where they're practicing reflexive AI in their personal productivity is a good place where then we can get the teams together to think about the people together, think about transformative work or really changing the workflows. And here I think the Gartner hype cycle is pretty useful. I use that as a anchor. You're familiar with the Gartner hype cycle, right?
Yeah.
So you have the peak of inflated expectation, the trough of illusionment, the slope of enlightenment, and we can have a picture at some point of this, and the plateau of productivity. What I found initially was that when people were just experimenting and they were near the slope, the peak of inflated expectations, they expected Gen AI to act like a deterministic system. They were
Hmm.
like, 100% precision is what I need. And it's not designed, it's a probabilistic system, right? It's never going to, it's not even going to give the same output every single time. And that led to a lot of disappointment, and people were then went into the trough of disillusionment. They were like,
Hmm.
so now I recommend that before you start investing significant effort in building things, you walk the Gartner hype cycle in your personal work. Because then, when you start climbing the slope of enlightenment, you have a very good sense of what works and what doesn't work. And then you are really this one. Yep. So
I
you should
finally got
walk this.
it.
Awesome. Once they walk this and they are on the slope of enlightenment, that's when they're ready in their
Hmm.
personal work. Then we can talk about actually building products over there. Because until they have done that, if they are before that curve, the use cases that they come up with are somewhere between let's solve world hunger or let's do this one thing that I need once a month and it takes me 30 minutes. So
Right.
You can't you do anything with it.
I
It's
I mean, and also it teaches you to like when hallucinations are more likely,
oh
like
yes.
I asked
You're
it.
not shocked anymore with hallucinations.
Oh yeah, first of all that, but second of all, you kind of get a sense of when they happen more because
Hmm.
um just yesterday I was asking it I wanted to know who was famous from one of the schools near where I grew up. So I was like, oh, I wonder like who the most famous person from the school is.
Hmm.
And it gave me an answer that I then said to someone else, and that person corrected me. They were like, no, they didn't. And I was like, wait, AI told me that it did. And then I thought about it and I'm like, okay, it's probably really hard for it to check like every famous person and then cross-reference that with who
You
actually,
have to ask it, but yeah, it is hard and it hallucinates. So you will learn
right.
once you walk this cycle, you will learn the importance of human in the loop.
And also like
And
what to reasonably ask from it, right? What
correct,
to reasonably
correct.
expect it can do.
Yes. And even and something that it can do, it will still make mistakes. So you still have. So I was merging two files a couple of days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I merged it with the third file and I asked to do some lookups and it gave me the wrong thing. And because I know if it's something that I'm just doing and I'm counting internally, I don't check it as much. But I was going to publish this out. So I did some spot checks and I found like that's not right. Okay. Then I went and said, well, you got this wrong. So I actually essentially I yell at it in a way like you got this wrong nicely, right?
Mhm.
They don't want to upset our future AI
I
overlords.
was gonna say keeping things on good terms.
Nice, nicely. So I said, "You got this wrong," and then the AI was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. I'm sorry, I got this wrong." And I'm like, and then he said, "I said, okay, cool. Check all the other fields now." And then it did, but it still got something. I'm like, "You're really missing the point here." I actually said that you're missing the point. I want you to use this field in this file, this field in that file. I want you to cross check your work by giving me the names from both sides, just the way I would coach a student who
Hmm.
messed up. So I have interns I host and I work with student workers as well. So when they get things wrong, I show them why they got and what they did wrong and how they should have done because they are not used to working in the corporate world where
Hmm.
high precision is needed, right? So I coached it. And I got my answer. Would have been faster to just do it in Excel, maybe, but I don't want to. I'm like so used to this way of working now. I do very little directly VLOOKUPs in Excel.
Hmm.
I use the merger or even Python. So yes, the hallucinations, the human in the loop is extremely important. This is what I meant by when we go back, the initial training that you have,
Hmm.
you need to emphasize, you need to have your governance in place. And you need to have the training with the key guardrails in place
Hmm.
before you start expanding. Because unless you put those down, and this changes from business to business, company to company, industry to industry, what is a risk too high?
Hmm.
So while I can give you generically, right? Don't do customer facing, don't do this, don't do that. It really depends on each business, what their appetite is, what is something that is, I think Bezos calls it, right? Type 1 decisions and type 2 decisions.
Hmm.
Like, so I would call it type 1 problem and type 2 problem that will cause a significant harm versus something that, is just in a meeting, something gets messed up and you fix it internally. So think of it that way and put your guardrails based on your comfort level for your organization. It's a very personal org level decision or even a department level decision.
Right. Because
Yeah,
like I mean, and just like a quick moment to just talk about governance just briefly, because I know that that can mean
very
different things
important.
to different people. It can mean who has access to what. It can mean where the data lives. It can
All
mean
of it.
so. Just is there like a maybe like a quick definition that you like to refer to when it comes to governance?
I like to have a two-part thing. I call it the promote and protect.
Okay. Oh, I like
Two
this.
pillars. Yeah. So often my work is in the promote bucket where I'm promoting whatever it is that I'm promoting at that point. And then I lean on my experts to build and populate and embody the protect pillar. And this would be people from legal, from information security, from compliance, from risk, right? Those are in the protect bucket. And each of them will put forward what protect means from their perspective and an amalgamation of all of that is what I call governance and it can be whatever. I rely on these experts to tell me what is the line that should not be crossed.
Right. Well,
And
in
that's what
general,
governance means to me.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's what governance means to me, the embodiment of the protect pillar.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that because it just comes up so much with AI, with data, and especially now AI is being incorporated in this way. It's like, if you don't have a good grasp on it, and if you're not, sort of protecting yourself, the
Mhm.
scale of what can go wrong
Oh,
later
yes.
because of AI, it just makes it something that really has to be considered. And I guess that sort of uh, is indicative too of what I wanted to get into, which is like just the power of frameworks, at all. It's like we're navigating this landscape that is uncertain, inherently risky because
Mhm.
we don't know what we don't know. So, yeah, like why do frameworks matter so much as AI is still emerging? Like, what makes a good framework for you?
For me, a framework is a shorthand. It's a way to deploy complex systems thinking in an easily digestible format. So when I say accelerate, enable, transform, that's a framework. It is the journey. When I say the hype cycle, that's a framework as well, because I'm talking about the maturity of the organization, of the individual, of the team. They all have to walk this path. Nobody escapes it. Some might spend shorter. That's a framework. Because when I say you have to walk the hype cycle, it's a bite-sized way of communicating a very complex concept. It's about learning about hallucinations. It's about learning about deterministic versus probabilistic. It's about human in the loop. I don't know to say all that comes when you dig into the framework, but these are bite-sized things. And when I say protect and promote, that's a framework,
Mhm.
right? You can say governance means 100 things to 100 people. I say protect and promote, you exactly understand what I meant,
Right.
right? So frameworks help communicate in a very straightforward and in a shorthand manner of some complex concepts. And the reason we need frameworks is is for standardization. Because when you have a playbook, the playbook is attached to a framework, and if if you're executing that playbook in an organization, a playbook that has been built by some other organization, then you essentially can take the framework, and it comes with all the assets that come along with it. You'll have the playbook, you'll have the strategy, you'll have the vision that might come along with it, and these help you map out your enablement pathway.
Hmm.
And that could be 3, 6, 9 months, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, whatever cycle you're looking at over here. The frameworks essentially. And this is a very common like things they teach, right? Even in the colleges and management schools, they teach you to think in systems and frameworks
Hmm.
as shorthand.
Um, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit because we touched on it a little bit when I said that I gave misinformation to my friend. So yes, you can use AI to help you do your work, but you can't blame AI when it gives you false information because your output is yours, right?
Correct.
So I remember someone once asking me if I used AI to help write my book because I did the second edition of a book recently. And I laughed when they asked me because I was like, obviously I did.
Of
Like,
course.
why wouldn't I? But it's like, even in the asking of that question, it goes back to that thing we were saying of like, oh, like, did I cheat with it? Right. So, let's talk a little bit about like, yeah, owning the output. You know,
Yeah.
when you're doing so much drafting and you're whether you're writing text or making mock-ups or whatever it might be, right? Yeah, how do we navigate that? How do we navigate an output that, yeah, was inspired by AI, but you're not copying it, but let's even say you are, right? Like, how do you navigate that?
I think of AI as a tool.
Mm,
I think of it like spell check or Excel, generating a table. I'm not hand drawing tables and charts at all. If I'm using code to generate, if I have a dashboard built for me by somebody else.
mhm,
So AI is another teammate, is how I think of it. And if every person, every employee has an AI teammate, then and they are so when I build something, for example, do I have to worry about that there was an engineering team that built the dashboard? Do I have to worry about that there was another team that collected the data?
Hmm.
And then I put that together in a slide by grabbing this chart from here, that over there, and I put that together, and now I'm giving an executive readout.
Hmm.
Is that cheating?
Right.
We don't think of it as cheating, right? We think of it as teamwork.
Hmm.
That's how companies work. We assemble, and that's your function where you are assembling the work of the output of many other people. And
Hmm.
that's expected, correct? Like a product manager, you have you have the design team, you have the
Absolutely.
engineering team, you have the PMO, you have the security, you have the infra people. You don't consider that cheating because the name of the product manager is that you help launch this feature. Everybody assume that the whole team behind it. So that's how I would think of an AI as it's your team member.
Right. Well, and let's take that even, let's take just because I like to stretch like ideas, even if they sound ridiculous and absurd, right?
Sure.
But like the reason why I don't consider that cheating is because that is a person who's spending time and earning their knowledge and their pay and their position at the company, right? But now with AI, all those people are bolstering their work, which then bolsters my work. But I'm bolstering my work because when I'm putting together a roadmap or I'm putting together a technical document of some sort, yeah, I'm gonna ask it to do the legwork I don't want to do and then
Mhm.
figure out what's easier for me to tailor based on that, right? Or even my book, if I'm considering certain ideas and I'm not sure exactly how I want to organize those
Mhm.
ideas yet, right? So like we don't consider that cheating. But then if if you were to copy your coworker's work and say that that was your work, right? That would be cheating. So
That,
it's like
yep.
you'd use a similar, like there's no reason for me to copy a paragraph from ChatGPT and posit that as my own without, uh,
Well,
you
think
know.
about it, right?
Hmm.
If a data scientist built your dashboard
Hmm.
and you copied a chart from that dashboard in your PowerPoint, you are copying somebody else's work in that sense because they produced it. But their job ended at that point. Their job was to get it to the dashboard.
Hmm.
Then your job started to do that. How many times have you actually put the name of this data scientist who made the chart into your
Right.
PowerPoint? Have you ever? I don't
No,
think people
no.
ever
It
attribute
would
the
be
name.
weird. It would be like, oh, by the way, Bob made this chart.
In Tableau, so do you put Bob's name over there? You don't.
Right.
You are copying. It's not like you modified it. You literally did a screen grab and dumped it into your PowerPoint.
Hmm. Right.
So how is this different? How is what ChatGPT produced for you different? As long as you're transparent about it and
Hmm.
you're not claiming that this is my own work, and
Right.
that's important. I'm AI augmented. Absolutely, I'm AI augmented. Everything is that I do is AI augmented. Almost all the so it's for me it's the same as another team member produced it and their work ended there, right?
Right. Hmm.
There's no difference in my mind.
And it's funny too because like different people and different companies, like I've seen companies, in some cases, like if I'm, applying for a job, let's say, or interacting with a company as a beta tester, or something like that, they might say to me, don't use AI for this, and then it's like, okay, interesting that you chose to say that because to me that shows a resistance to AI,
Yes.
because if we're all being honest, I mean, even companies have sent internal memos where they've told their people, don't use AI, you know? So it's like, it feels, I don't know, dishonest or misguided. I don't know what the right word is, but it feels weird to hear that from
It
companies.
does. It does. And I feel that the companies that do that are definitely being reactive because they haven't defined
Mhm.
the guardrails
Mhm.
based on the individual company's risk profile or industry position and the thing that they're subject to. So because they have not done that legwork, they are reacting from fear
Right.
and that's what it is. They need to actually spend the time to define what is okay for
Mhm.
them. So for example, in a legal group, right? Every company has a general counsel office. They may say do not use AI at all.
Right.
Now they can make that blanket decision that because they have not done the legwork of what is acceptable, where the protect pillar lies. So a better statement would be do not use AI for any. outgoing comms.
Hmm.
So
Right.
now that's a perfectly valid guardrail because that is based on the risk profile of that job function. But if you're writing an email, sure, draft it with AI. Just
Hmm.
check your work. That's a lower risk. So each group can define what is okay and not okay, and I encourage them to do so.
Right.
Blanket no AI is somebody who's not done their homework and they're reacting from fear.
Yeah, I love, not fear. Your love of what is possible with AI should be
Yeah, look
stronger
at
than
that.
your
And it might be
feel.
something so small, but it may not be, it may be 5% of what your job output, your functions output is, and that's okay.
Hmm.
You just have to like keep pushing the envelope till as while you're walking the hype curve, you will then figure out, oh, what is okay. Because right now you may be in the trough of disillusionment, or you may be, there should be another phase here before innovation trigger that I'm afraid of this thing.
Right.
You don't
Um,
want to start the hype cycle.
Uh, well, it's interesting too because the companies that are choosing to be this way that haven't done their homework, right? What they're doing basically is telling their employees to lie to me because at some point their employees are going to use ChatGPT
Oh
personally
yeah,
for their own personal productivity. So it's silly to say like don't use it because like you're just creating an environment now where you're
of dishonesty
forcing them
almost.
to lie to you. Uh,
Correct.
and but then again, let's say you work for a company like that, right? Now you're in a situation where you're lying to your company because like you're going to be tempted to use ChatGPT at some point. And now if you own your output, then you're going to notice if something's weird or wrong that ChatGPT has introduced. I mean, I'm just saying that there's so many models, so no,
Right.
no allegiance to any model. But yeah, so you're gonna let's say you get caught, right? Now you're in a situation where you haven't owned your output because you included something incorrect that you would have noticed if you had checked it. So it's interesting. It's almost like a self-correcting behavior in a way.
Yes. That definitely is because if you don't check your work, you will put incorrect work out at some point and sooner rather than later because it does get things wrong. And that's just a known thing. But it helps you so much. It's the same way you bring on a student worker, they're going to get things wrong. There are all these memes about the intern who emailed the entire mailing list and things like, but you still get interns, right? Because you expect that they will make mistakes and you have guardrails around it.
Mm.
You do not. I saw a post some other day about thinking of AI as your co-CEO. I'm like, man, that's dangerous. Don't think of it that way. Because you cannot give it autonomy of a co-CEO. It's
Right.
still going to be somebody who works for you and you are responsible for your output.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe people need to learn that that level of ownership, you know? Like maybe there's too many people right now that are just like, "Please tell me what to do. I have no idea. I don't want to think about it." So in a way, it's like when we talk about cheating versus leveraging, if we want to use those words, or we want to say an enabled person versus an accelerated person, when it comes to AI, however we want to call it, yeah, you're teetering that line.
Correct. That is for sure. Yeah, it definitely quickly goes into philosophy, right? I mean,
It does.
in perspective, like I have friends who refuse to touch AI.
I know.
Like AI scares me, and they will not do it. But they love the art I make. I make like memes and avatars, and they love that, but they
I
won't
love
touch
that
it.
you're using it so creatively. That's so cool.
It's a lot of fun. That's
Yeah,
my enable. That's my enable stack.
that's okay. My enable stack is going to be to like make electronic music with it because I would love
Oh,
to
that
make
is so
music,
cool.
but I don't. I mean, I'm not a musician, and
Make it, make it. I think somebody, I forget who, one a pretty famous artist, he did that and he essentially used AI and he was very honest about it. He used AI to make he had a sequence and he said do it in these 25, 30 different formats, and then he had the AI riff on it and then he tuned it, he adjusted it. He's like, is this cheating? No, because now it's working under my direction.
hmm
So how is it different from having an employee, a talented employee, or a songwriter, or a ghostwriter?
And how is it different? I mean, if it's helping you discover even your style, your
Right.
preferences, like,
Mhm.
you know, what are we, what is cheating? You're just thinking about new concepts, new ideas. Like some people will like it, some people won't.
One way to think about it, right, is what deserves space in your brain
Right.
or your brain power.
Hmm.
So, and for each person that might be different, but when you decide that this is where I want to spend my time, and the others I want to outsource, offload to my AI assistant, because your AI assistant will make everything, anything you ask it to do. So if you hate data analysis, offload that. If you hate doing the visuals for a PowerPoint, offload that. You can stay with, I like thinking about how to pitch this. If you want some help pitching that, you can have it take on personas, right?
Hmm.
Instead of hiring, I cannot afford a McKinsey consultant for my personal work, right? My company might do it. But I can say that, hey, I want you to be an AI, a consultant, and I want you to think of this problem for me
Hmm.
because I'm offloading work to it. So each person might be doing a different, like offload different aspects of the work that they don't enjoy
Hmm.
and focus on the work that they do enjoy. That this entire, I think there was this whole study about well-balanced versus spiky teams. And I don't know if you know that. And what they said was if companies spend a lot of time um, l- scaffolding the, I guess, the challenges, opportunities in a employee's profile, then they risk diluting what makes them amazing.
Say that one
So
more
instead of we are all very good at some things and not so good at other things.
time. Hmm.
And some the few years ago the thinking was that we need to scaffold in your performance reviews and whatever you said, oh, you should improve this, you should improve that, right? And
Hmm.
then they would give you training programs to get better at that. And what that meant was there was so much focus on the stuff that we're not good at,
Right.
and they did not sharpen the edges of what you were good at and excellent at, right? It diluted your focus. So I think that Gen AI has flip that completely so that stuff that I'm not good at, I'm going to let the AI handle. The stuff that I'm good at, I'm going to let it amplify me. And I'm going to sharpen that edge. I'm going to be focusing and improving on those few things that I'm excellent at. And the ones I'm not good at, I'm going to be good enough, but I let AI make me excellent by
Hmm.
scaffolding. So my output is high quality regardless of where I personally am spending time and where I'm augmenting with the AI.
I love that so much actually because I sort of was talking about it a little bit in terms of what I said earlier about maybe people need that, maybe people need to have that level of ownership and embody that level of ownership. So now, like thinking about that a little further, it's like maybe people need to use it and to excavate in this way to even understand where are they uniquely good at something.
Right?
Because
Right.
again, that's another like self worth thing that maybe a lot of
Uh-huh.
people that are in the working world don't have. They don't have that concept of like, what is it that I'm actually good at? Like I know like it's been X and Y and Z and I've been good at those things most of the time. But is that it? Is there something else that I'm really good at that I don't know about yet?
Uh-huh.
So that's like that becomes an interesting thing because you mentioned philosophically, like people are against it, right? Because I work in the art world in some capacity too. I support a magazine here in New York, and we have used AI for some of the shoots that we've done. Um, but I've heard a lot of artists say like I would never use it, and they, or even on TikTok, like Gen Z kids will say like, oh, if you use it, you're like dumb, which like I know their words, not mine. But it does you think about that a little bit and you think there has to be a middle ground between those two because like I understand the activism of saying like I'm not going to use this because this is a threat to people, and we have seen how some companies and certain policies like when it comes to AI, like AI is being used as a scapegoat to avoid certain things that are helpful to people. And then it becomes this activism thing of like, well, I'm going to avoid it because it's bad for some people and I don't want to give energy to something that's bad for some people. So, yeah, there's a whole like, that whole thing is like so interwoven.
It definitely is, and I think that I do not judge it. This is a personal choice, And if someone does not want to, because I have like friends who, like I said, do not use AI. They
Yep.
say it scares me. And while I might poke fun at them and laugh at them a little bit, I respect that choice.
Yep.
Because I feel that we need all kinds. We have the people who are the early adopters, we have the people who are resistors, people who are completely happy with the way their life is going. And it's just fine. I think there should be no judgment
Mhm.
either direction. The ones who are using AI, I don't think they should be judged by the people who are not using AI. And the ones who are not using AI shouldn't be judged by the people using AI. But the reality is that for companies, this is at an individual level, right? For companies who are really working towards, doing more with less, they get to judge everyone, right?
Right.
Because that's why they do performance reviews. So they actually judge our outputs. But as at an individual level, I don't think we should be judging each other at all.
Yeah.
I would say it's a choice. Like
Hmm.
some people like home cooked meals, some people do takeouts. Who cares?
Of course. Yeah. No, I love that. Um, so for those that are open to it but feel shame, because we did want to get into a little bit of that cultural friction. So, how do you coach people through it? When you are working with people one-on-one, and they have that, let's say some of your friends that, are not open to it. Let's say they change their minds, they come to you and they're like, hey, or professionally, there's a team that's ready to use it. How do you coach them through that, yeah, that shame?
Just go as far as you're comfortable.
Hmm.
Go as far. Do one thing. Write that one email maybe, and then don't do anything else with it. Make that one image that you could not make. Plan that one vacation. I would say it really, there is no hard and fast rule. You are an individual. You get to make the decision on what is good for you, what is right for you, and take it as far as you feel comfortable. And then if you feel a little that maybe this next thing you could tackle with AI, go for it.
Right.
If you feel that you're going to do it yourself, that's fine. And I feel that the world is changing so fast that people are going to be carried along with the wave. It just is going to happen because you may not want to, but the world around you will change, and then you will literally have to walk the walk. And it doesn't have to be this year. Maybe it's okay if you do it. So if you want to, and you're afraid of being judged, don't tell people. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
your this is your choice. It's your choice. But like I said, whether you cook or you do takeout,
Hmm.
you still have food. Like uh, I would not say that you lie about it, right? I don't want you to pass off your store bought thing, and people do that, right? At parties, maybe they'll say, "Oh, I made
Right.
this."
That actually is a great analogy.
So, so I would say that you don't have to lie about it, but it's what you produced a piece of work, whether it was AI augmented. If you think the audience you're in will judge you, you don't have to tell everyone, right? Find a sympathetic audience of people who are like-minded with you.
And there's also, while we want to respect everyone's choice, and we do,
At an
um,
individual level, at a company
at an
level, they
individual
do
level.
it all the time.
Yeah, at a company level, I mean, well, I mean, it applies to both actually, because my point was going to be that, okay, stylistically, philosophically, great, it's a choice, but pragmatically, in the real world, it's not really a huge choice because the world is going to force you into it, kind of. I mean, if you're a business, like there's a difference between, the hype cycle. We're looking at the hype cycle. So, I feel like a lot of companies started out with this like huge hype cycle of AI. Like we need to implement AI like everywhere, and when we look at the data, we look at the research, like for my last book, I had to update, the research on what we're looking at in terms of like the AI landscape moving forward. And the biggest change was, traditional models were like different like concentrations of AI were like what the future ahead looked like, and now since Gen AI, like all of them are just like, well, Gen AI is just going to continue to be a thing, because like basically it is the most accessible version of AI that is now becoming the most accessibly tailored as well. So, it's kind of dominating. So yeah, I mean, if you want to stay competitive in your role, in your, again, maybe it changes when if you're a painter or whatever.
It changes in what your role is. I feel that we knowledge workers, especially the ones in like tech,
Hmm.
uh, we we it's kind of almost become like an echo chamber, right? There's this whole world out there who don't need to do all these things, right? So think about your construction person, the one who's helping you do your yard or
Hmm.
building something, right? They have their skills. The one who's doing the wiring, they have their skills. They don't need to apply AI directly to that skill.
Hmm.
uh, the the project manager of your build of your construction work may need to apply because that's a knowledge worker,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So and it really depends on your function. Gen AI squarely lives in the knowledge worker zone, but that's a lot of functions that are not in knowledge, and they don't need to at this point, even do it. Now,
Right.
the same person may go in home and then plan their trip to Italy, and then they might say, "Oh, I need Gen AI now because it can help me research," or their spouse might be doing it, or their kid might be doing it. So it's very context dependent. That in some function they may not, you may never need, or may not need to do it for years.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that kind of gets, some of our future oriented questions is, mentioning, okay, reading and writing are learned adaptations, right? Like
oh
we learned
yes.
how to do that because it was an easier way to communicate ideas, and share them,
Yeah.
and now the premium, I guess, on writing, and reading, I guess, is going down, right? So, because you can ask AI to summarize this for me or whatever it might be. So, and then we sort of talked to, when you and I had a session, we were talking a little bit about like this is like helping return us to this like natural way of thinking, of speaking, of expressing. So, yeah, let's like expand on that a little bit because I think that's a really interesting part of the conversation.
Sure, sure, definitely. So, I mean, and I remember that conversation. So the way I'm looking at, right, the models. So I've been using GPTs, like I was an early beta user in 2020. I had a beta license for like three GPT-3,
Mhm.
and at that time it was like doing one word at a time. And I felt it was magic.
Yeah.
Uh, and then ChatGPT came out, was still a text-based text-only model. Now they are multimodal, right? You can talk to them,
Mhm.
and that is a huge unlock. So, and do this experiment, Irene. I would say that, even try it. When you talk to your model,
Mhm.
you will give it different information differently. When
Mhm.
you write it down, you will give it differently. And I feel that that's as humans, we had to learn systems. We had to learn, we had user manuals which told us where the form is, what field does what each drop down does. So we had to learn systems and adapt to them. And we had these guides and trainings and system onboarding and all this stuff that we had to invest in. Now with Gen AI, and it's coming, it's not there yet, but at least the AI assistant is that way. You don't have to learn the system. It's one box, right? You
Right.
just talk to it. And that means that before, humans had to adapt to the systems and computers and technology. Now technology is adapting to humans.
Hmm.
And when you think about us people, right? Nobody has taught a child, normal. Of course, there are edge cases and children who need some extra support. You normally do never teach a child how to talk. They just learn it. It's
Hmm.
a natural skill that comes to them at 1 years of age, or 2 or 3, whatever, right? Reading and writing, nobody has learned on their own.
Hmm.
You have to teach it. It's an acquired skill,
Hmm.
which also means that it is something that some people do well, some people don't do well. You go to a school that had a high quality English program or language program, and your writing might be a higher quality. If you didn't finish your high school, maybe you didn't have a high quality. It's a learned skill, and it has been almost like a differentiator and a blocker in your exploration of your work life, also the reading and writing skill, math skills.
Hmm.
But talking, you will have people who are very good at talking, right? And they may not have a formal education, but they are very persuasive speakers. So does that mean that just because you cannot like read and write at a level of an Ivy graduate, that your thoughts are any worth any less just because you cannot write it? Maybe you can speak it, right? So I
Right.
feel that being able to talk to your AI is really going to enable people to climb heights that they could not before. And talking to your AI will also help you solve problems because now in a different way and much faster. Because when you give and do the experiment, you talk to your AI and ask it to solve a problem, and you write to your AI and ask it to solve a similar problem, you will see the difference very quickly.
I was
Because
just thinking about it. I'm like, wait, when I'm writing to it, I'm in writing mode. So,
Mhm.
it's giving me its reasoning. I'm reasoning back with it. But if I were just talking to it, it would be like me talking to my girlfriend and being like, and
You
then,
and me,
you
like right
know,
now, right?
yeah, or you, yeah. So, and that's different because, like, for instance, that's the whole point of why we do these talks, right? Like, I don't, like, I could just ask you to answer a bunch of questions and write that on a blog post and we could share
Mhm.
it. But there's a magic to talking because
Correct.
you and I are intelligences. You say something and then I think of something or vice
Mhm.
versa.
And
So,
you're amplifying it and you're building on top of it, it's not one plus one. Now it's a whole mesh of ideas that
right.
came out of this rather than that one linear flow. Reading and writing is linear,
Hmm.
speaking is not.
And that's the thing. I mean, going back to the philosophy of all of it, it's like this is a democratizing tool because already we're seeing, we were talking about engineering earlier. So, we're talking about learning complicated skills. So, okay, the complications of how you learn those skills is gone. You don't have to go to university. You don't even have to really know how to write a sentence.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day. So, that's what's when I mean there's so many fears and whatever, but when we think about what's coming and what is this enabling for the future, there has to be also we have to temper this fear with the reality, which is we are going to hear a lot of new people's ideas that we
Oh
otherwise
yes.
would have been
Mm-hmm.
gate kept away from
Mm-hmm.
the society. So that's like a really interesting thing, and we
Huge
can't really
unlock.
put, what's that?
It's a huge unlock.
Yeah.
I feel that the society is really at a cusp of almost like a renaissance,
Mm.
where all those expressions and ideas and thoughts that were previously didn't have a way to get out now are going to be allowed to, we're going to be figure out a way to express and bring them out. And it's not, innovation is not going to be the domain of a few who
Mhm.
have gone through rigorous learning or have been lucky enough to have mentors. It's going to be domain of everyone.
And that's beautiful because we talk about, okay, how this is changing how we work, right? But it's also changing how we think
Mhm.
because maybe 25 years ago, if you told your friend that you wanted to start an app, they'd be like, but you're an idiot. How are you going to start an app? Right? And now it's like anybody can write
Anybody can do
start
it.
an app like today and like go live with it probably in like 2 hours.
Definitely. I mean, I have had ideas that have been sitting in my head for such a long time. I just didn't have the time to do it with Gen AI. I just brought my idea to life.
Yeah. I mean, now I feel like I have the opposite problem where I'm like, oh my God, I could be doing so many things every day. What am I doing? Sitting here listening to the birds.
That's also good, no judgment.
No judgment. Leisure time is important.
It's very important. I definitely feel that it's AI is augmenting and unlocking human potential.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very excited about this transformative time.
It's good to hear you say that. And I'm happy to like be saying that in something public facing because I mean I do think people should be cautious and critical of, yeah, like
Absolutely.
their careers, their futures, how they make money. That's important. And, that sense of safety is very important for people and it should be, but we should also be excited about what this means and what the potential is for each of us, professionally, personally.
In
as
your
a company,
community,
organization.
there's so
Yeah.
many. I feel that there are so many things that can be solved that could not have been solved before,
Mhm.
because now we have this really powerful tool to help us.
Awesome. I think that's a great place to stop. But thank you so much, Farhad. It was so good to do this talk with you and to get your perspective on it. Yeah, thank you for being here.
Sure, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed having this conversation. And just like instead of like you said, instead of writing it down, we had
Yeah.
a conversation, and it went in so. I know we had a list of things that we would potentially talk about, but we covered so much ground. And this is what I love about the human to human communication.
Yeah, and I'm glad we hit on most of those because I didn't want to let any of them go. They're all too precious.
It was great chatting with you. And yeah, definitely let's see, how we might like maybe have more perspectives. And I would love to hear what, some of your other speakers come up with.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll definitely invite you to the next ones. Before we break, is there anything that you have not mentioned that you just want to uh, you know, highlight or
I
mention?
think I would just say, don't be afraid. Use it, whenever you feel ready.
There you go. All right. Awesome. I am gonna stop. Okay. Did that stop? Okay, I'm gonna say bye now, Farhad,
All
because I
right.
have to stop the
Good
recording.
chatting with
But
you.
thank you so much.
All right then.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.